Alright people, do another quick Bitcoin update. It's been almost a week since I was last here, since I last spoke, and a lot's happened since then, so I'm going to do a quick analysis of what's happened over the last week and what trades I'm looking for this coming week. So when I last came to you, we did identify this downtrend that was starting to break. I think at the point of recording we had a structure that looked like this. I think we're about here. And so we identified at this point that we were breaking this downtrend and that we were going to be reversing into an uptrend. At this point here, what I explained on the show was, because this leg ended up pulling back 50% before making a new high on the 1 hour, I was considering this a really strong low that needed to hold in order for the uptrend to continue. And my target for that uptrend was this this daily bearish OB up here. And so I essentially was waiting for this uptrend to break at some point. And and so after I last spoke to you and came on the show, we did have this wick below the low, the strong low, and I did tweet at this point that I was not considering this to be a break of that low because it was only a wick. I usually like to see a candle close before I start considering it to be a confirmation of a reversal. So at this point here, I wasn't considering, I was still long because we hadn't broken this strong low yet, and in the next 10 to 12 hours we did actually break and close below this low. So I was considering this to be a 1 hour bearish market structure shift. Still got a little bit of a sore throat, so you'll have to excuse me. So in my mind, once we broke this level, once we broke this hourly low, paired with a really nice build up of liquidity, really choppy uptrend here, I was expecting to reverse here and for this very short uptrend to end and us to go lower. As you can see, that's not how it played out. So after the 15-minute market structure shift here occurred, I decided to go short. I stand by that trade. I would take that trade any day of the week because that's my setup. It's my exact setup that I know works 70% of the time. Obviously 30% of the time you're either going to read the market wrong or you're just going to be on the wrong side of the manipulation. In this case, we had a bearish market structure shift, but we continued the trend up, and this happens. You can't get bent up on bad trades. And in fact, I stand by the trade. It was a good trade. I will take that trade any day of the week. So now that we discount this market structure shift, we can take this as the new low. So this is our trend now, new high. According to the structure that I trade, we can remain in this trend now like I said, until we hit this daily OB, and I did say this last time, now that we've closed below this level, as I mentioned in the live a couple of days ago, I do expect an uptrend to begin, which it's becoming clear it is. That will at least tag this 50% zone of the big downtrend that made the market structure shift, or even this daily OB up here. So that's exactly what I said last week, and despite this manipulation here, I'll remain in that thesis that we're in an uptrend now. So what do we look for now? So what are our next trades? Well, until we enter this bearish OB, or we have a strong low break, which currently is this low here, I'm remaining bullish. So I'm not going to be shorting till we reach this daily OB, and so we'll be looking for longs. What do we do when we look for longs? We wait for a market structure break to occur, a new high formed in an uptrend, and then we wait for a pullback. So this is an area of interest at the minute for me. Nice order block here. What I would like to see on the 1 hour is a slow grind down to this 50% and a clear market structure shift. And this can actually occur, you know, much deeper, but anywhere below this 50% to the strong low. If we break the strong low, we go down. Until we break it, we long. So we wait for a 15-minute or an hourly bullish market structure shift. So what will this trade look like? Potentially something like this. Stop loss below the strong low. Target 1-to-1. First TP. But we're longing an expectation of us hitting this bearish OB up here. So we can put a take profit zone up here too. And in any case, I'll be closing out any long positions I take if we have an hourly, or we have a strong low break, so a bearish market structure shift. That currently sits at 106.6. So this is a trade I'm looking to take. And obviously this can change based on how far we trend downwards before we reverse. If this occurs much lower, then I'll be entering much lower. And likewise, if this trend doesn't actually pull back, we make new highs, I'll just bring the top of the fib up and then wait for a deeper pullback. So I'll wait for the setup to come to me. This is obviously how we trade. We don't just long or short based on what we think. We wait for the structure to present itself to us that we know. The structure that I know now is a 50% pullback and then a 15-minute or an hourly bullish market structure shift. And I'm bullish until we enter this daily OB or we break trend. So that's the thoughts on Bitcoin currently. Total is fairly similar. I stand by, again, what I mentioned last week on the live. But I do think this uptrend will continue until we enter this liquidity zone up here. Like a wick into it. But I do see the same for alts. We're trending up now, which is nice. We can long, but I do expect that. I do expect that trend to reverse or bring us much lower before we make new all-time highs. This, in my opinion, is going to happen, but we don't need to discuss that yet. For now, we're bullish, like I said, until until the trend breaks or we enter the bearish OB. So I'll be updating on my X, on my positions, on whether I think the setup's coming or whether it's here, or you know, I'll be updating everything on my X. So do go down into the link below and follow my X. Likewise, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really does help. I think I've got 11 subscribers at the minute. Big up. Other than that, I'll probably see you tomorrow. Till then, peace.